Well, I've done it. I finished Allegiant, the third book in the series by Veronica Roth about people whose lives are run by an internet personality test sort of scenario. It was really bad, you guys. Really bad. I think I may be scarred for life. Yeah, I'm just joking with you. I can criticize anything. Nothing is too tough for me. Although this was really close. By the way, I really like that intro that I just did. I think I might replace the old intro, which I only used for like 2 episodes. So let's read the back of Allegiant real quick here. One choice will define you. The faction-based society that Tris Pryor once believed in is shattered, fractured by violence and power struggles and scarred by loss and betrayal. So when offered a chance to explore the world past the limits she's known, Tris is ready. Perhaps beyond the fence, she and Tobias will be able to find simple life together, free from complicated lies, tangled loyalties, and painful memories. But Tris's new reality is even more alarming than the one she left behind. Old discoveries are quickly rendered meaningless. Explosive new truths change the hearts of those she loves, and once again Tris must battle to comprehend the complexities of human nature and of herself. No, she's not that complex. While facing impossible choices about courage, allegiance, sacrifice, and love. We'll see how they put allegiance right in the stuff on the back. That's cutting is what that is. Whoo doggies. Okay. I pulled out all the stops and I took notes as I was reading this, and I compiled all those notes onto my laptop, which is over here. And so we're just going to go through it with my thoughts as I was reading it. And I should warn you now that there are going to be spoilers. I will spoil everything. This review will also make a little bit more sense if you've actually read the book. I'm going to try and explain kind of what's going on if you haven't read the book, because I don't think that you should read it. So throughout we will try to discuss the larger themes that the book tries to bring up, as well as smaller questions, because this book leaves you with way more questions than it does answers of small things and large things, and it's a mess. This book is a mess. But let's get started, shall we? Everybody who doesn't want spoilers is gone? Okay, so like I said, these are just my thoughts as I was reading it. Some of them big, some of them small. So, it's not explained very well why Four's mother hates Tris so much. She hates her, like, with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns. And is it because Tris is a threat to her and she doesn't want Tris to take her little boy away? Or is it because Tris was allied with Four's daddy for the brief while at the end of the book previous to this? Or like, is she just an ass? I think she's probably mostly just an ass. But it's not really clear to the reader why she hates Tris. She just does. The politics in this book feel a lot like the politics in the later Hunger Games books, except for on a smaller scale. Especially in the really simplistic ways like, all adults are evil, and the people in charge will betray you. Everyone freaking bites the insides of their like mouths, cheeks, lips in this book. Everyone, not just Tris. It's just like the mouth must look like shredded to pieces because everyone's like, ah. So near the beginning of this book, Triss has to undergo the truth serum again because in the previous book she betrayed people and they want to know like why that happened. So they put her under the truth serum, but because Triss is the special-est of all the special flowers that there are, she can resist the truth serum. And nobody knows this. And I'm sitting here going, not a single one of them remembers hearing, maybe sometime in their past or something, that Triss can withstand the truth serum. Because I think other people knew in the second book. They figured it out that she could withstand it. I think they did. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe nobody figured it out except Triss and Four. But it struck me as really odd that everyone was like, oh, Triss took the thing, and we believe her, so we're not going to question anybody else or put anybody else under the truth serum just in case. Yeah, good call, guys. Good call. In this book, once again, Four has taken a drastic personality change, and now he and Triss are really lovey-dovey and like making out all the time and really sweet and lovely to each other. When in the previous book, Four was a straight-up asshat. He was a ball of barely contained rage all the previous book, and now he's just like happy and lovey and fine. His personality swings so much. Oh, there's going to be a lot of rage. This is strangling invisible people is what this is every time that I do it. Why the fuck does Triss's faction have a memory wiping serum? And for that matter, I think it's the Smarty Pants faction, they have a death serum. The other factions, they all make sense. The warrior guys have the one that like makes you face your fears. The truth-telling ones have one that makes you tell the truth. The amiable ones have one that makes you real compliant and amiable. Why the hell would these other two factions have memory wiping and death? Those aren't useful in their society. Are they? Did that come up a lot? Oh no, this person isn't being selfless enough. Let us wipe his memory. This really felt like the author was just like, for this book, I need something that will make people forget and something that will kill people. So I'll just make those factions have those other special serums. And I was just like, what? No sense. None. I'm just curious, did Coke pay for product placement in this book? Because when Triss is driving out of, like, I'm going to call it the compound, where all the factions are and everything, and they're going out into, like, the real world, she sees billboards for Coke, vodka, and energy drink. Okay, I love me some energy drink, I sure do. So we're constantly being introduced to all of these new characters, and one of them is named Zoe. She doesn't really come up again. And Triss says that Zoe doesn't look like a liar, and I'm like, what the fuck does a liar look like? Can Triss just walk down the street and be like, well, that dude's a liar, just by glancing at him? Is that a thing? Is that another power that she has? So, in the factions, what did people think was on the other side of the fence? Did they just never care to check it out? Because Triss and her people leave super easy. No one tries to stop them. They're just like, okay, we're going outside the fence now, bye. And they go. And I'm like, why don't other people just leave the like, compound, whatever? Nobody wonders? Nobody wants to make sure it's not zombies out there? I don't understand. I don't understand. The word choices and descriptions in this book are very poor. They have been through all three books, but the worse the books get, the more you notice them. So like book one, even though it's pretty bad, it manages to be engaging enough where you notice it, but it doesn't take you out of the story. But by this book, you notice it a lot. Things are described in exactly the same way every single time. Triss, for some reason, whenever the character of Janine Matthews is mentioned, Triss calls her Janine Matthews, but she can't just call her Janine. Are there other Janines running around that we need to worry about differentiating? Oh, we're coming up on the good part. I have a quote here from Triss. I know so little about genetics. Don't worry, Triss. The book doesn't either. Why wasn't it just zombies? It could have been zombies. We could have had zombies. Instead, we get this. I was doing okay. It was boring and a little bit obnoxious, but not too bad. Until we got to the part with the genetics. So many air quotes. So, we find out that in the rest of the world is divided up into two sort of groups of people. People living in the slums and people living in like some sort of science-y compound. We're not introduced to anybody else, so these are the people that we have. And the people in the slums are genetically damaged. And the people who live in the nice place are scientists, and they are genetically perfect, I think is what the term that they use for it. So, but because this author does not understand how genetics work, and I mean, I don't even really understand how genetics work. I have no expertise in the subject, but even I am going, that's not how genetics work, honey. So there was this war between the genetically perfect people and the genetically damaged people, and it was called the Purity War, and it is really unclear who won. Presumably the genetically perfect, the normal people, won because they made the other people go live in the slums, and they started running these experiments to get people who are divergent, because divergent people are more likely to be genetically perfect. So okay, they created these experiments so that there would be more genetically perfect people eventually, rather than just like just breeding with each other and hoping that the people in the slums just die out eventually. They create these experiments to create more genetically perfect people. All this genetic stuff just reminds me very strongly of trying to breed a perfect Pokemon in the Pokemon game, because there are like 6 stats that they can have that can be perfect in, and that's how you like breed a genetically perfect Pokemon. This is what that reminds me of, because they're just like really vague. They're like, oh, you're genetically perfect. Oh, you are not. Please stop trying to have science book. Just stop. Stop. So they want to run some experiments on 4 because they claim he does not display the characteristics of a divergent. What are the characteristics of a divergent that he is not displaying? That Triss is displaying? They're exactly the same person in this book. Like seriously, in this book, it goes, I'll tell you why later, it goes back and forth between Triss's point of view and Forrest's point of view, and you cannot tell them apart. So they're the same person. So what makes them think that Forr doesn't display characteristics of Divergent, but Triss... Don't... So it turns out that Forr is genetically damaged, which makes Triss even more of a special flower than I thought it was possible for her to be. She is without equal. She is Girl Jesus. Treesus, we'll call her. So my favorite character from the second book is back, Peter, who was the bully character from the first book who stabbed a kid in the eye. And he is way more interesting than the other guys. But the book keeps telling us that him and this other girl named Kara are shitty people, but we never see it. We just keep being told that they're shitty, with no examples of how. So, yeah, I'm free to like them as much as I want. So Forrest's daddy, he was a bad guy from the previous book. They put him on trial in this book, and you think that, yeah, he's just going to get executed because we have the death serum now, so we might as well use it. But instead, they decide to exile him outside the fence. Which just... going for it again. Seriously, why would you do that? Why not wipe his memory and start where you keep him where you can keep an eye on him, make sure he doesn't go bad again? Like, if you just put him out there, you don't know what's outside the fence. Nobody gives a fuck what's outside the fence. So he could, like, raise an army out there and come back and completely take over. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's so contrived. It's like, we need to keep this guy in the book as a potential bad guy. So rather than kill him or wipe his memory, we are just gonna have him just go somewhere, and he'll be back. So at this point, Veronica Roth hastily backpedals the message from the previous 2 books that the Smarty Pants faction is just straight up evil. And she's like, no, the smart ones are good. They're good now. They're not evil at all. Why would you think that? I only drilled it into your brains in the previous 2 books. Also, they kind of totally dropped the thing about them always wearing glasses and everything because I think she realized by this point that that was stupid. So I want to know, once they find out that Triss is like the most perfect of all the perfect people they have created so far, her genes are made out of shiny unobtainium or something, why aren't they like harvesting her eggs or forcing her to breed with people? Because that's what they want. They want to create genetically perfect people, and Triss is like as perfect as they come. No, they're just like, yeah, carry on, Triss, carry on being you. I'm sure you'll just breed with that inferior guy 4 and have inferior babies. What? These guys are clearly not above manipulating people. I mean, they created these whole experiments where people are forced to live in the society based off of internet quiz personality tests. So, like, why would they suddenly be, like, very respectful of Triss and her perfectness? Maybe they're worried that she has certain ninja powers because she's so perfect, and if they mess with her, she'll just kill them. It's a legitimate fear. So in the previous book, Triss's brother betrayed her, and Triss is still really upset about that now. She wasn't really in the previous book. She was like, oh, my brother betrayed me. Oh, damn. Oh, well, carry on. But in this book now, she's upset about it, which seems to be her thing. Her parents died in book 1. She wasn't upset about it until book 2. Her brother betrays her in book 2. She's not upset about it until book 3. That's like her thing. It takes a while for her to process, apparently. But she is, like, really upset about it. And I'm sitting here going, Triss, you betray people on a regular basis. Why are you so mad at your brother? What? You are such a hypocrite, and I want to hurt you. Yeah, everyone except for our main heroes in this book are evil and wrong. It's just gonna have to accept that about life. So the Allegiant are a faction of people, not really a faction, but they're a group of people who are only a tiny, tiny portion of this book, and they really do not matter at all. It really feels very much like Veronica Roth came up with a title for this book and then shoehorned in something that had to do with that title. There are so few consistent things about these characters, and even the things that you think are maybe going to be consistent turn out not to be. Like Triss has this thing, sometimes, where she hates for other people to inject her, so she always injects herself. But sometimes she doesn't care, and people will inject her and she doesn't give a shit. It's like beaming through the shields on Star Trek. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Whatever the plot needs. Apparently, all of these serums not only have antidotes, but you can be inoculated against them. I don't think that's right. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, people who know more about science, but I don't think that's a thing. I want to know, because there's so much conflict going on out in the outside world between the GPs and the GDs, and like how does, like, say you're a genetically perfect person, you're strolling down the street and you see a genetically damaged person, how do you know that he's genetically damaged? Can you just look at him? Again, people just look at people and be like, oh, that guy's a liar, that guy's genetically damaged, that guy doesn't have the characteristics of a Divergent. It's just like, whatever we want, whatever we need, we can just tell. This book really wants you to know that labels are bad and damaging. However, in the previous 2 books, we were taught that labels are fun and helpful, especially in the first one. I mean, you know what happened. When people read the first book, they instantly started going, I wonder which faction I would be in. They probably started taking internet personality tests that told them which faction they'd be in. It was like the houses in Harry Potter. And now in this book, there's a huge 180 being done, going, labeling is bad, don't label people. People are just people. Maybe I can give Veronica Roth a little credit here. Maybe it was intentional. Maybe it was to make us see how easily we fall into labeling people, and to show us how damaging that is in the final book. She's letting us get really into labeling ourselves, putting ourselves in these factions, and in the 3rd book, she says, you see, that was wrong. You shouldn't label. But then again, I might be just giving her way too much credit. At this point, the book goes, look, we've got gay characters. Aren't we politically correct? People in this book spend a lot of time also pressing their lips together. Everybody does it. I picture they just walk around in like permanent duck face, like... Yep. waiting to be kissed. They're all waiting to be kissed. So I have a deeper understanding of the Peter character in just a few actions. Like, he gets like 5 sentences, and I understand his character way better than Triss or Four, who we are in both of their heads all the time. Although whatever happened to him being a mercenary, I was really looking forward to more of that. That seemed interesting. So Triss and Four have a sex scene. You don't get to actually see the sex part, but definitely they have sex. And after that, there is a scene where they go to teach her brother how to shoot, and it's like so full of sexual innuendos. It's hilarious. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's aiming. Don't be afraid to just grab it. Okay. These serums can be injected, airborne, and you can just straight up drink them. Is that a thing? Science, help me out here. Is that a thing? Somebody tell me. Is that something that we can do? Everybody in this book gets over huge, crippling emotions really quickly, except Triss and Four. They take forever. But everybody else, like Four has a scene with his mother, and they've been estranged the whole book. And he has one scene with her, and by the end they're hugging and making up. And Triss has a scene with her brother, who she has been hating on for this entire book. And one scene later, they're buddies again. You can't do that. It does not feel real. So we're reaching the end of the book now. The really big spoiler is, I found this out beforehand, that Triss dies and stays dead at the end of the book. But I really wanted to give it the benefit of a doubt. I tried very hard, even with this knowledge, to go into it knowing that she dies, but trying to be like, well, let's see what the author does with it. Maybe it's a really good choice. Triss annoyed the crap out of me while she was dying. So her brother's supposed to go into this place where as soon as he goes in, the death serum aerosol will be released, and there's nothing that can protect you from it. Like, they're bringing a hazmat suit, but even that won't protect you from it. This death serum stuff seems like a really bad idea. But anyway, her brother's going to go in there, but Triss at the last minute says, I'll go in there, because I'm probably immune to it. So she goes in there, and she is immune to it, and then she gets shot to death. This would have been a pretty cool place for Triss to finally not be immune to something. She could go in there, maybe feeling all confident that she's gonna survive this, and then as she goes, she realizes, shit, I don't think I can survive this, but I'm gonna keep going, I'm gonna get this mission done, and I will have done something, I will have achieved something. But no, she's immune to the freaking death serum, and somebody has to shoot her to death. So Triss, even at the end, is the most superior, most perfect person the world has ever known. Sorry, Treesus. I should be calling her Treesus. She died for our sins. And later on, her brother and Four make a big deal out of how wonderful she was because she sacrificed herself to save her brother. But she didn't! Not really! It wasn't a conscious sacrifice. She didn't go in there going, I'm probably gonna die, but better me than my brother. I'm gonna go in there because I love my brother and I don't want him to die. She went in there going, I'm probably immune to the death serum. I'll be fine. That's not You have failed in your noble sacrifice, Veronica Roth. That is not a noble sacrifice. That is a character going in there into a situation that she does not feel is very dangerous. And it wasn't. Triss was right. Going again. No. Maybe later. So fail. The death was a fail. And I really did go in there hoping that it wasn't going to be a fail. I was really hoping that if you're going to do something as bold as kill your main character, that you weren't going to just fail so hard. And you know that is the only reason that this book is being told from Triss and Four's point of view, because it certainly wasn't to get a different, like, character in there, because Triss and 4 are the same person. They are written exactly the same. And so the only reason that we go back and forth is so that after Triss dies, we have a character whose head to jump into to continue the story. And then Peter, whose small storyline is way better than anybody else's. Peter feels remorse for the bad things that he did in book 1, and so he chooses to get a dose of the like forget me serum so he doesn't remember, and he gets to start over from scratch. And that was 1,000,000 times more effective than Triss's death. And am I the only one who feels really sorry for Christina? Christina is Triss's best friend through all 3 books, and every time Christina makes a good friend or finds a love interest, that person dies. And now Christina's best friend has died, and I'm just like, I would rather follow her. I mean, her life is terrible, and she still manages to keep an upbeat attitude about it. Not that she's terribly well developed, but nobody is in this book, so what are you gonna do? So Triss has sacrificed herself and won the day, and the genetically damaged people are allowed to once again intermingle with the genetically perfect people, because we've learned that in the end, people are people, no matter what their genes and no matter what faction they're from, which is the lesson I was pretty sure we were going to learn in book 1, if you remember, because I'm smart like that. Triss, she aerosoled the forgetting serum to like everybody, all of the bad guys, and so they don't remember that they were evil, and so they're just like, okay, we love everyone now, and we're all a big happy family, like Barney the dinosaur says we should be. But then we start bringing up that like the bad guys are still doing their jobs, even though they don't remember anything that they had done. And we're told that, like, well, the government's not going to fire them just because they had their memories wiped. And I was like, who is the government? We never heard about this. Is there a president? Who's in charge of the larger world? I thought maybe these were the last people that were left. Are there these, you know, experiments with the faction thing going on all over the world? Is the government just going to swoop in here and put the genetically perfect people and the genetically damaged people back apart from each other? Who's in charge? What's going on? I don't know. And also, all of our main characters are given fairly cushy government jobs, and I'm just like, these semi-violent teenagers are being given cushy jobs, like not one of them ended up mucking out horse stalls for a living or something. No? Alright. In general, this book is, and this whole series of books are very difficult to suspend your disbelief for. You can in the first book a little bit, but it's really hard, and in the next 2 books, it just gets worse and worse. I can't suspend my disbelief. The characters are unlikable and flat and the same. Characters are introduced just to be killed. Characters change personalities drastically from book to book, and the ending is poor at best. So there you go. That is my long-winded opinion of the Divergent series. I bet you thought that I was gonna accidentally fire this off again. I didn't. Just to play with your expectations. 'Cause I'm Triss Jesus.